The rain was coming down in sheets as I stared out the window of my apartment in Seattle, the Space Needle barely visible through the gray. I am Tiernan, 44, and until recently I thought I had it all. A good job as a software developer, a comfortable life, and a wife, Isolde, whom I loved more than anything. We'd been together for 15 years, married for 10. We met at a coffee shop downtown. I spilled my latte all over her laptop, and the rest, as they say, is history. She was a vibrant artist, always full of energy and new ideas. I was the grounded one, the steady hand. We balanced each other perfectly, or so I thought. Things started to change about 6 months ago. Isolde began working longer hours at her studio. She had always been dedicated to her art, but this was different. She was distant, preoccupied. When I asked her about it, she'd brush it off, saying she was working on a big commission, a breakthrough piece that could change everything. I wanted to believe her. I trusted her implicitly. But there were little things, nagging doubts that I couldn't shake. Late-night texts, hushed phone calls she'd take outside, the way she'd flinch when I touched her. One evening she told me she had to go to a gallery opening in Portland. It was a big deal for her, a chance to network and showcase her work. I was happy for her, but something felt off. I offered to go with her, but she insisted I stay home. "You hate these things, Tiernan," she said. "Besides, I need to do this on my own." That night I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned, my mind racing. I tried to convince myself I was being paranoid, that Isolde loved me and would never do anything to hurt me. But the feeling wouldn't go away. Around 3 a.m. I got up and went to the living room. I sat on the couch, staring at the rain. That's when I saw Isolde's phone, charging on the coffee table. She never left her phone behind. It was always glued to her hand. A wave of dread washed over me. I knew I shouldn't do it, that it was a violation of her privacy, but I couldn't stop myself. I picked up the phone and opened her messages. My heart pounded in my chest as I scrolled through the recent conversations. Most were with her artist friends, discussing galleries and exhibitions. But then I saw a name I didn't recognize: Oberon. My hands trembled as I tapped on the conversation. The messages were explicit, intimate. Oberon wasn't just a friend, he was her lover. They had been seeing each other for months, meeting in secret, sharing moments I thought were exclusively ours. The words blurred as tears welled up in my eyes. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut, the air knocked out of me. My world, my perfect life, was crumbling before my eyes. I read on, each message a fresh wound. They talked about their passion, their desire for each other. Oberon was everything I wasn't: spontaneous, adventurous, exciting. He was a sculptor, a free spirit who lived life on the edge. Isolde had always been drawn to that kind of energy, but I thought she'd chosen me, the stability, the comfort of a life together. I scrolled further back, trying to understand how long this had been going on. I found messages from weeks ago, planning their rendezvous in Portland. The gallery opening was a lie, a cover for their affair. I felt a surge of anger, hot and consuming. I wanted to scream, to break things, to confront Isolde and demand answers. But I knew I had to stay calm, to gather my thoughts and plan my next move. I copied the messages to my own phone, taking screenshots of everything. Then I carefully placed Isolde's phone back on the coffee table, trying to act as if nothing had happened. The next morning, Isolde returned from Portland, full of stories about the gallery opening. She seemed genuinely happy, her eyes sparkling with excitement. I watched her, my heart aching with betrayal. "How was it?" I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. "Amazing," she gushed. "I met so many important people and everyone loved my work. I think this could be a real turning point for me." I nodded, forcing a smile. "I am proud of you," I said, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. For the next few days I played along, pretending everything was normal. I went to work, paid the bills, and made small talk with Isolde. But inside I was seething with anger and pain. I knew I couldn't stay in this limbo forever. I needed to confront her, to get the truth out in the open. But I also wanted to protect myself, to make sure I had a plan in place before I blew everything up. I decided to consult a lawyer. I found a reputable firm downtown and scheduled a meeting. I told them everything, showing them the messages I'd copied from Isolde's phone. They advised me to gather as much evidence as possible, to document everything in case we ended up in a messy divorce. I started to keep a journal, writing down every detail of our interactions, every lie Isolde told. I also hired a private investigator to track her movements, to confirm my suspicions about Oberon. The investigator came back with photos and videos of Isolde and Oberon together. They were holding hands, kissing, laughing. They looked like a couple in love, oblivious to the pain they were causing. The evidence was overwhelming. I knew I couldn't deny it any longer. It was time to confront Isolde and end this charade. I waited for the right moment. One evening after dinner, I asked Isolde to sit down with me in the living room. I had the photos and messages laid out on the coffee table. "We need to talk," I said, my voice trembling slightly. Isolde looked at me, her brow furrowed. "What's wrong?" she asked. I took a deep breath and gestured to the evidence on the table. "I know about Oberon," I said, her face paled. She looked like she'd been caught in a spotlight, her lies exposed for all to see. "What are you talking about?" she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. I pushed the photos towards her. "These are you and Oberon," I said. "Don't even try to deny it." She picked up the photos, her eyes widening in horror. "Where did you get these?" she asked. "It doesn't matter," I said. "What matters is that you've been lying to me for months. You've been having an affair behind my back." Tears streamed down her face. "Tiernan, I can explain," she said. "Explain what?" I asked, my voice rising. "Explain how you could betray me like this. Explain how you could lie to my face and pretend everything was fine." She started to cry harder, her body shaking with sobs. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she said. "It just happened." "That's not an excuse," I said. "You made a choice. You chose to cheat on me, to break our vows, to destroy our marriage." She reached out to touch me, but I recoiled. "Don't," I said. "Don't touch me. I don't even know who you are anymore." We argued for hours that night, the words flying back and forth like daggers. Isolde tried to justify her actions, saying she felt neglected, that I wasn't paying enough attention to her. But I didn't buy it. It was just excuses, a way to deflect blame. I told her I wanted a divorce. I couldn't stay married to someone I didn't trust, someone who had betrayed me in the worst possible way. She begged me to reconsider, to give her another chance. But my mind was made up. The trust was gone, shattered beyond repair. I spent the next few weeks moving out of our apartment, finding a new place to live. It was a small, sterile studio in a different part of the city. It wasn't home, but it was a start. The divorce was messy and painful. Isolde fought me on everything, trying to get as much money as possible. But I had the evidence on my side, the photos and messages that proved her infidelity. In the end, the judge ruled in my favor, granting me a fair settlement. As I tried to rebuild my life, I couldn't help but feel a sense of emptiness. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, was gone. In her place was a stranger, someone capable of deceit and betrayal. I threw myself into my work, coding day and night to keep my mind occupied. I also started seeing a therapist, trying to process my emotions and make sense of what had happened. One day, my therapist suggested I try something new, something to get me out of my comfort zone. She recommended a pottery class at a local community center. I was hesitant at first. I'd never done anything artistic in my life, but I decided to give it a try. To my surprise, I enjoyed it. The feel of the clay in my hands, the challenge of shaping it into something beautiful, was therapeutic. It was a way to express myself without words, to channel my emotions into something tangible. In the class, I met a woman named Winifred. She was a kind, gentle soul who had a passion for pottery. We started talking, sharing our stories and experiences. I told her about my divorce, about the betrayal and heartbreak I'd endured. Winifred listened without judgment, offering words of comfort and support. She understood my pain, having gone through a similar experience herself. Over time, Winifred and I grew closer. We spent hours together in the studio, working on our pottery and sharing our lives. She helped me to see that I was still capable of love, that I deserved to be happy. One evening after class, I walked Winifred home. As we stood on her doorstep, I leaned in and kissed her. It was a gentle, tentative kiss, but it felt right. It felt like a new beginning. We started dating, exploring the city together, trying new restaurants and going to concerts. Winifred brought joy and laughter back into my life. She showed me that it was possible to heal from heartbreak, to find love again. Isolde, on the other hand, seemed to be spiraling out of control. I heard through mutual friends that she had lost her studio, that she was struggling to make ends meet. Her relationship with Oberon had fizzled out and she was alone and miserable. One day, I received a phone call from Isolde. Her voice was weak and desperate. She told me she was sick, that she needed help. I hesitated at first. I didn't want to get involved in her drama again. But then I remembered the woman I had loved, the woman who had once been my best friend. I couldn't just abandon her in her time of need. I went to see her at her apartment. It was a mess, cluttered with art supplies and dirty dishes. Isolde looked pale and gaunt, her eyes sunken and hollow. She told me she had been diagnosed with a serious illness, that she needed treatment but couldn't afford it. She begged me to help her, to give her another chance. I felt a pang of sympathy for her, but I also knew I couldn't go back to the way things were. I couldn't forgive her for what she had done. I told her I would help her with her medical expenses, but that was all. I couldn't be her husband again, but I could be a friend. Isolde accepted my offer, grateful for any help she could get. I paid for her treatment, making sure she had the best care possible. As she recovered, she started to change. She became more humble, more grateful. She apologized for her past mistakes, acknowledging the pain she had caused me. I didn't forgive her completely, but I did find a way to move on. I realized that holding onto anger and resentment was only hurting me. I focused on my relationship with Winifred, building a new life filled with love and happiness. We eventually got married, exchanging vows in a small ceremony surrounded by our closest friends and family. Isolde even came to the wedding. She looked healthy and radiant, her eyes filled with genuine happiness for me. She had found peace and acceptance, and so had I. Life is full of unexpected twists and turns. Sometimes, we experience heartbreak and betrayal that can seem impossible to overcome. But with time, healing, and the support of loved ones, we can find a way to move on, to rebuild our lives, and to find love again. And sometimes, we can even find forgiveness for those who have wronged us, not for their sake, but for our own. Looking back, I see that Isolde's betrayal was a turning point in my life. It forced me to confront my own vulnerabilities, to grow as a person, and to appreciate the true meaning of love and forgiveness. And for that, I am grateful. In the end, I found happiness again, not in the way I expected, but in a way that was even more meaningful and fulfilling. Life had thrown me a curveball, but I had learned to swing, and I had hit a home run. This story is about how betrayal can lead to unexpected paths, new beginnings, and the rediscovery of love and forgiveness. It's a reminder that even in the darkest of times, hope remains and that healing is always possible. Remember, it's okay to feel the pain, but don't let it define you. Embrace the journey, learn from your experiences, and never give up on the possibility of finding happiness again.